Transferable skills. From Cackle Media, this is Transferable Skills. I'm Noah Mishkin. Today's guest is Tamir Goodman, who shares his skills journey from college and professional basketball into sports technology. This conversation was possibly one of the most important ones I've had. So if you're a young student, an emerging athlete, or perhaps a parent of a child, this is a conversation you do not want to miss. I wish I had been given some of these guiding principles or words of inspiration when I was younger. Stick around. Tamir Goodman, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Humbled and honored. Thank you.
Yeah, me too. Let's talk about your background. Tell me what high school was like and what were you doing then?
Yeah. So at a very young age, actually, I knew that I wanted to try to be a collegiate basketball player, earn a scholarship. And I also knew that I wanted to play professional basketball. I'd say probably by age 8. Those were my goals. I was very lucky that my parents supported me and that I had a great coach basically from day one. And I'm turning 43 on Saturday, and my coach is still my coach, and we still talk maybe even 2 to 3 times a day. I had my goals and I had the backing and the coaching, and I just went for it. I became more of a reality at age 17. I went through the system of all the basketball camps, the NBA camp, the, Sonny Vaccaro ABCD camp that they did a movie about this year. And I was, when I was 17, I was ranked the 25th best player in the country. So I felt like I might have a chance to fulfill my dream. This was seen as impossible because being an observant Jew, I wasn't going to play from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday for Shabbat. So having this goal of, getting a Division I scholarship, but on the other hand, not being willing to play on Shabbat when it already is almost impossible to get that scholarship, and then put on top of that, not playing on Shabbat. So it was a goal. It was a dream. I had the right people around me, and thank God I was able to fulfill that dream.
A lot of kids want to play basketball, regardless of how far they think they can take it. So clearly you're a little bit above the average. You're in these camps. You're looking at it as a next stage collegiate athletic status, Division I. So if you're backing it up back into high school, what makes your practice, your routines, your work ethic different than your average high school athlete?
I would say 3 things. That's a very good question. Number 1 is I had tremendous coaching. And by that, I mean, my coach never let me settle. He made me do very, very adult things at a very young age, meaning like if I had a bad game and I already had a lot of media following me by that point, and I didn't want to face the media. I remember one game in specific at a really poor shooting night, and there was a lot of media there. I was only in high school and I didn't want to talk to them after the game. I was embarrassed by how poorly I shot the ball. He said, if you talk to them after you play well, you got to be able to talk to them when you don't play well. And he sent me out there to face international media at age 16. Another thing is he never let me settle. Like at age 16, whenever I was already playing against college guys. And I remember one night crying. I couldn't play against them. They stripped the ball from me. They were blocking me. I wasn't used to the physicality. And he just said, look, if you want to go home, let's go home. But if you want to play in college, this is the speed you're going to see. This is the strength you're going to see. So you either have to pick yourself up or let's go home. So I had a coach that never let me settle and taught me very adult things, like professional basketball things at a very young age, that I had to face the media. I had to pick myself up. I had to, work at a really high level and push myself every day, time management, all the things that come along with basketball. I had that. So that's one. The second thing is I was very dyslexic. I am very dyslexic. It's very hard for me to read or write anything to do with numbers. And I knew that was a huge challenge for me in the classroom and in life. But I also knew that dyslexia gave me a really big advantage on the basketball court. And that is I could see things that other people weren't seeing, like timing, finding solutions, seeing cracks in the defense that other people weren't seeing, intuition on the court. Like, because we exercise, we compensate all day long in our brain, that it exercises other parts of our brain that other people don't use. And those creative brain muscles helped me a lot on the court. So that was number 2. So I had the great coaching, and I had being dyslexic. And then probably the most important one is like my faith, growing up in an observant Jewish home and trying to have a relationship with God. That was everything to me because it was my blueprint for life. Good times, bad times, extraordinarily great times, success, failure, slip ups. Like I always felt like Judaism was my blueprint. taught me how to eat, how to sleep, what my intentions are throughout the day, how to try to uplift everything throughout the day, try to play for a higher purpose, try to just always practice humility and find a way to like better the world and help other people through basketball. So those three things kind of gave me like, I would say, a big advantage.
It's interesting when you talk about being in high school, you're a coach pushing you to compete and play with college age athletes. That's a whole another level. And there's actually a very similar correlation with academics as well. You have people who are elite at whatever they do. If it's academics in school, if it's athletics, you get to that next level. In this case, and in many cases, it's college. And suddenly you're at a different level and you're no longer the star. You are just maintaining along with everybody else who's just as special as you are, if you can even define it that way. And so pushing you at that early age in high school is a great way to kind of throw you in the deep end and get you prepared for that level of competition and performance.
And it really helped me because off the court, I had to deal with so many challenges that most players wouldn't have to go through at a young age. And everything was like out in the open in the media. And then I remember in high school, I was averaging, over 30 points a game. And then like in one of my first practices, in college, coach is like, all right, play one-on-one against a veteran player. And it was like 1-to-1 for 10 minutes. Like what you said, now everyone's just as strong, just at that. So what separates you? It's the fundamentals, it's the work ethic, it's the tenacity, it's the resilience, it's everything coach taught me, because at that level, it's not good enough to be strong or fast or skilled. You're going to need the other qualities, and he prepared me for that.
Yeah, you got to bring your game. You mentioned earlier time management. I think people throughout their entire lives at varying levels struggle with time management, maybe notorious to be that age and trying to be so disciplined with your regimen, with your schedule, with your athletics and your academics, but also the time management piece. How did you manage that? Like, what tools did you use back then? I mean, you didn't have a smartphone back then. So what tools did you use to help keep you on track?
Again, it was coach. He emphasized, never being late, always being ready, always be on time. When I retired, after my press conference, a kid came over to me and said, "Hey, do you want to shoot around with me?" And I just froze. I froze after he asked me that. Why did I freeze? Because I was like, oh my God, I never shot around. I didn't even know how to shoot around. Every time I was on the court, I had X amount of time to shoot X amount of shots and to know how many made and how many missed, what I needed to work on, and where I was in comparison to the day before. And that, because of that regimen of basketball, like, you got to get your homework done. You got to get your schoolwork done. You got to take care of your body. Otherwise you're not going to have the time that you need to invest in basketball. So basketball forced you to have good time management. I think there's only 4,000 scholarships a year, and there's millions of high school basketball players. Like, you can't want to be one of those 4,000 and not be in the gym. It doesn't work. So, and then if you don't get good grades, you can't play. So you have to have excellent time management. And then on top of that, because of basketball, like, your sleep has to be great. Your hydration has to be great. How you eat has to be great. And you're constantly timing everything so that, like, when it's at practice, my body's ready to give as much energy as possible based on how I ate and how I drank throughout the day. So it's forced to be excellent at time management.
The prescription of your schedule, was there joy or was it work?
I think it's joy, because you feel so accomplished at the end of the day. I sometimes think of the example, like, I can remember waking up and my parents saying, "Hey, go back to sleep. It's a snow day." And you're just like, oh, wow, this is great. Right. But then when you go to bed that night, you're just like, you feel so sluggish. I didn't accomplish anything today. But the next day you had 3 tests. You were prepared for all of them. You had practice. You accomplished everything you want to accomplish. You go to bed, you feel like a champion. So I think it definitely, the feeling of accomplishment and reaching your potential is one of the greatest feelings in the world. So yeah, I would go with that.
Yeah. My wife is, well said. My wife is an educator. And one of the things she has always imparted on myself is kids want to do well. They want discipline. They want rules, despite them saying they don't like rules, or despite like the behavior. The truth is they do like rules. They do like discipline within reason, because also you want to feel that accomplishment. You want to feel like you're actually progressing and doing well and accomplishing things. And at the end of the day, I know how I feel, just as you described. At the end of the day, if I kind of hung around and didn't do much versus if I wrote a great article, even just for myself that wasn't being published, just in my own journal, I felt like I did something, and I slept better that night.
Yeah. It's all about small wins throughout the day. And like you say, it gives kids confidence. It's the same thing. Like, when you get on the court, you always start with, like, close up to the basket and just making 3, 4, 5, 6 shots in a row. Like, win the day, like see the ball going through, see the ball going through, see the ball going through. And then also sometimes people tell me now, like, oh, I'm so unmotivated to work out. They always say like, what's a good drill to work out? And I say the most important drill in all of working out is the first drill. Once you start working out, your body will already want to do more because now you've broken the cycle of negativity. You're like in a place of accomplishment and you have that feeling and you just want to, so just start. It goes for a lot of things in life.
I take that to heart greatly. I read a great book. There's a YouTube video of the Navy admiral who gave a great commencement speech at, I think it was Austin, Texas. And he wrote a book afterwards, small book called Make Your Bed. The whole idea behind making your bed, the most important component of why is it so important to make your bed is because it's a very small win. All you got to do is just make your bed. Now you can check that off. You've done something and now it compounds that success throughout your day.
I played in a really big game once and there was an NBA player that told me that he was going to come watch me play, like a huge NBA all-star. And I was freaking out that he actually showed up. I was in high school and the coach is like, before the game starts, go over there and thank him for coming. And I did that. And as soon as I did that, I wasn't nervous anymore. You just, all of a sudden I did like a positive step, a positive move, a positive, just anything. And then it just like, you could be yourself. And another example I always think of is like, there was a great rabbi named Lubavitch Rebbe, and he used to get more mail than the president of America every day. I heard this story from his assistant rabbi. His name is Rabbi Krinsky. He like came in on the first day of work and there's like stacks of mail all the way up to the ceiling. And he was just like, how do you get, like, where do you even start? And the Rebbe like smiled at him and just said, just open up the first letter, you know, just let's open up the first one and then we'll take it from there. And he said it actually taught him like a way of life, kind of like what we're talking about. Whenever you're overwhelmed or whatever, just take the first shot, you know, first start, go for the run, like you said.
You ever make the wrong accident with the same outcome? You check your mail. I'm just going to check my email before I go to bed. And then suddenly it's 2 hours later. It's the same kind of thing. It could work against you as well, but it's the same driving force is you just got to get started and don't let the concerns or the thoughts weigh you down or be the barrier or the obstacle that's preventing you from actually succeeding. Just do it. Don't worry about all the details.
Yeah. And another thing that's very helpful, I believe, is to have a set schedule as much as possible. You know when you're eating, know when you're working out, know when you're doing your spiritual empowerment or your meditation or your prayer or whatever it is. And like when you have that core schedule, I feel like it helps us not get so overwhelmed or controlled by all of a sudden 2 hours later, I'm still looking at emails. You know, it's consistency. Someone asked me yesterday, like, what's the difference in European basketball and American basketball? Because now like we're saying that all these European players are coming over and they're winning NBA MVPs. The difference is there's a consistency here, you know, in Europe. Like you play with the same players, same coaching staff, same organization. It's all year round. It's not the same rules. In America, your season, let's say in high school, is like 4 months, but then like there's all these rules. You can't practice with more than X amount of players. You can only see your coach on this and this date. So then you have to go to AAU team. And then like there's a whole new system there, whole new players. Then you got to go to different basketball camps in the summer, whole new system, whole new players. You're losing the consistency. There's tremendous value in consistency. I had a good day. I had a bad, it doesn't matter. I know when I'm eating the next day. I know when I'm working out. And it just, I feel like that's a huge advantage in life is having a consistent schedule as much as possible.
You played college level?
Played college basketball.
Was that fulfilling? Was it everything you expected it to be?
It was more than a dream come true. You can't really be ready for it. No matter how much you thought you're in shape, like preseason training at Division I level, it's like something you just can't be prepared for. Like you're maximizing your body to a level that you never thought was possible, but the return is amazing. Like I thank God every day that I got to play college basketball, the team, the campus, the practices, the games, the people you meet, the relationships are amazing. Like if you have good coaches and good teammates, it's a blessing for life. It's an absolute blessing for life. There's almost nothing like it.
That's awesome. Incredible. Do you stay in touch with the players on your team?
Around the clock.
Really?
Always. Yeah. Always. Love my guy.
My son made the U.S. team for Maccabi, and he actually wasn't sure he wanted to do it. And I'm like, you and I know this, not because we're smarter, because we're more experienced and we've lived longer. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand what you have. You were selected to be on a very exclusive team to represent your country in an international tournament that only happens once every 4 years. His apprehension was, I don't know these guys. I don't know anybody. And I'm like, I guarantee you will. When you're describing going into Division I athletics and the preseason workout routines and the bonding and the maturity that you gain from all that, and being in touch with these people today, that's to some degree, that's what I explained to him. I'm like, these are going to be people you're going to know very quickly. You're going to bond. You're going to work together. You're going to work out together. You're going to know these people forever on your team and some of the players on other teams from other countries. It's a network that you will never get access to again. I think he's starting to understand the weight of it and the opportunity, but he didn't get that. And the camaraderie, the network of peers and friends and professionals in the future, like that he's going to get out of this and that you cannot match that. It doesn't exist elsewhere.
It's unbelievable. And I tell college players that they get upset nowadays if they don't get an NIL deal. And I tell them, you actually have the greatest NIL deal, because if you could just play college basketball and network and establish yourself as a great worker and a great person and a great player, that's the greatest NIL deal ever, because I cannot tell you how many people I grew up playing against or playing with that now have huge jobs in the NBA, in college basketball, in sports tech. And they're all relationships that I met, when I was really young, and they're still strong till today because of the bond of basketball. So you don't get an NIL deal, like you say, like it doesn't matter. When you're part of a team, you have no idea who these people are going to be when they get older. And establishing yourself as a great person to be around and a hard worker, it's going to pay off, and you're going to have meaningful relationships for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you described this actually is a really important message in especially sports and academics and professional life too, especially in sports. It often comes down to people feeling like zero sum. Either we win it all or it was a terrible season. Either I got the scholarship or it was a waste of my time. Why are we always thinking that you have to be the best or you're nothing? There's so much more you gain from it. That victory, yes, very important. And it demonstrates the ethic and the work ethic and the team camaraderie and the team effort. I get that. It's important to win. But it's more important to look at the journey, everything you got along the way, and the network exposure, access, opportunity, experience. You can't buy that. That is earned, and that is unique.
Yeah. 3 thoughts that I think about all the time. One is coach. The principal of school asked him when I was in 11th grade, so are we going to have a good season? And he said, I'll let you know in 30 years. These kids end up being great husbands and leaders in their community and great people that I know we had a great season. Another one is a great rabbi once said, all effort bears fruit. Like, let's say you put in mind that you were going to win the game, but you didn't win the game and you might feel like a failure. No, there's growth there. It could be emotional. It could be spiritual. It could be something that you learn. There's always growth in effort, even if it wasn't the exact results you were looking for. And the third is, I think it was like with IBM, this an employee at IBM in the 80s, he made a huge mistake and he cost like IBM like $5 million one day. And he comes into the office the next day with his resignation letter. He's like, I'm sorry, I lost so much money to the company. And his boss said, what are you talking about? Like, that was the greatest education you could have ever learned. You're not going anywhere. We need you, and we need exactly what you learned from this process. Don't even worry about it.
We don't want to pay for that again. Somebody else is going to make the same mistake and not learn from it. There's a limit to how much an education is worth, and something that they probably had massive gains as a result of in the future.
Exactly.
It's a great lesson.
Yeah.
What do you do after college? Where do you go from there?
After college, I turned pro. I came over here to Israel to play professionally. I played here professionally for 7 years. The biggest blessing was meeting my wife through basketball. After I finished playing, because I got hurt, I thought of a basketball invention. Because of being dyslexic, I invented this basketball pitchback called Zone 190. It was a multi-angle pitchback. We got NBA sales. It was going really well, but unfortunately, even though we had a patent, a big company stole it from me, put us out of business. So then I focused on I had a basketball business. I was doing camps, clinics, speaking engagement, scouting, all sorts of basketball stuff all the way up until COVID. And then COVID hit, and we got an email saying, can't pass the basketball because there's bacteria on the ball. So Israel's a world leader in textiles. So I was like, why don't we create an antimicrobial net? So when you make a shot, it'll disinfect the ball, dry the ball from sweat, so it won't be as slippery. And the net is like the most viewed part of the game. So we'll put an advertising component on there. And we launched Aviv Net, and thankfully that's growing every day. And through that, I got my name out a little bit in more sports tech world again. And then that's how I got hired by Fabric, which is a leading mixed reality technology and loyalty and rewards program through mixed reality that now we work with like all the major leagues and top brands and putting together these incredible mixed reality experiences for brands. And I'm so thankful for all that. And it would have never happened had I not, A, been dyslexic, B, gotten hurt in basketball, when I thought I was at my prime, and C, just, the whole podcast about transferable skills, like everything I've learned in basketball, like you missed so many shots in basketball, like, you got to keep shooting, but you got to keep going and going and going. These are the transferable skills that I learned from the game that have now helped me in the professional space. And like you mentioned also with my book now, I wrote that book just for that message. So that kids, especially if they have a learning difficulty, should not feel like they're down and out, but they should feel like the challenges are springboards. And sometimes through understanding our challenges, we also learn our skill set. Like I learned my skill set through being dyslexic. So I'm glad that the feedback's been great. Kids have been inspired by the book. And I'm really thankful to like where I am right now in life. I have an amazing wife and 5 kids and, still working in basketball, but I started off my journey. It's just not about basketball. It's doing good through basketball, helping people, helping brands, and really, really, really thankful. Like been through a lot of my journey, but looking back, I feel like every step of the way was perfectly ordained so that I could do what I'm doing today. So.
Tell you, I've got the book here in front of me for when I was listening, and my kids love it. I love it. I think it's brilliantly written. I think it is compelling and it's inspirational. And things like this that show neurodiversity. Let's speak about dyslexia for a second. Earlier in the conversation, you were talking about the academic smarts, the street smarts, the basketball skills, the time management, all these different skills. And certain people are more proficient at other things. Maybe some things come naturally, instinctively, and some things are learned skills. Even if you have to work 2, 3, 4 times as hard as others, but you can still accomplish them. You just described the dyslexia as really being a benefit in some cases and helping you get to where you are today. That's part of the, I don't know, maybe it's the whole purpose of the book that you wrote. It's that you don't look at a disability, a challenge, a disorder as, well, that's it. That's all I can do. No, you look at it as, okay, what does this give me? What does this enable me to do? How does this open doors that others don't have access to? I look at that for my own ADHD. What does that do for me that others can't? And I think that this book serves as a true testament to what it is that the message you're trying to get across, which is that these things are who you are. We are who we are as a result of the sum of all the pieces, the components of myself, everything that I put out in the world that I feel good about, that I'm good at and I'm proud of. That is because of every part of who I am. And the dyslexia, I'm curious how your mindset has changed from the early stages when it was first discovered and you were aware of it to where you are today and how you embrace it.
Yeah, I think when I was younger, I was trying to hide it. I was already really famous, and I didn't want like coaches to find out, or what if I didn't pass my SATs? Like how embarrassing that would be. Like I have scholarships, and then they're wondering like I can't play college basketball. I can't pass my SATs. So that, first part of my career, I hid it a lot. But I think my changing point was I barely passed my SATs. It took a lot of work. I was hustling basketball clinics to make some money to help pay for the Sylvan Learning Center where I, would get tutor help. I still remember it was $50 an hour back then. It was a lot. And I worked so hard there. Yeah, I worked so hard there and I did it. I barely passed my SATs enough. I even remember like the moment, like you had to call this number. It was $10 and they tell you what your score is. And whatever it was, I got the minimum and I didn't believe it. I had to ask my father for another $10 so I could call back again and see if I heard the number right. And it was, and then I jumped on him and I was so happy that I did it. But the changing point for me was, okay, here I barely passed, but I got to college, I was Dean's List. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, the can't tell if you're smart or not. I think teens can't determine if you're smart. Like my whole life, I've been hiding it and saying I'm dumb. But here, when I got my shot in college, I'm Dean's List. Like no one was expecting that. So then I was like, already back then, I knew when I was going to write the book. And I knew that one day I was going to like use this experience to like let kids know there's a superpower in their challenges. And that's what makes them special and unique and also extra sensitive. Because like you were saying, like it's much easier for me to talk to a kid with dyslexia because I go through it. Whereas if I didn't have it, it's hard to relate. So our challenges let us know who we are, and they also let us know how to empower others around us in a more sensitive way. And I think that's really important.
Standardized tests do not, as you said, measure your intelligence level. All they tell you is how good you are at taking tests. That's the first thing. the same point of asking me what I got on my ACTs. I don't remember. It wasn't amazing, but I don't
Right.
remember, and it doesn't really matter. The point is I got enough for it to allow me to do the next stage of my life, to get to the next portion. And also how you talk about like the sensitivity and, trusting your source, the reliable source. Who are you to tell me? Well, firsthand, I grew up with ADHD that was undiagnosed until I was 15 years old. So halfway through high school. And I don't need to bore you with the details of learning nothing up until that moment. And I was training my brain to tell me that I was dumb, that I was
Right.
low IQ. And so you can imagine, maybe even relate to the number of years it took to untrain that. But once diagnosed, and then you had access to the tools and the resources. You talk about college being named Dean's List. It's because you finally had the resources and the tools to allow you to succeed. Same thing in sports. You need the right coach, you need the right resources, and you need the right training and regimen in order to be disciplined, in order to push you to the performance that are at least up until the limitations and maybe even a little bit past your own perceived limitations. But you can't do that without the right tools. You can't do that without the resources. And so once you go through an awareness and acceptance and understanding, great, now what?
Yeah. And I think the Torah tells us, like, make for yourself a rabbi, make for yourself a mentor. If we could surround ourselves with people that love us unconditionally, and that people that believe in us more than we believe in ourselves, it's going to be incredible what we could accomplish. I remember, just for example, like my strength coach, I had a great strength coach in high school. I remember the first time he put the big plates on, the 45s, and I had a bench press, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. And Rob's like, coach, like, you got this, bro. Like, and I did. He just reached heights that you couldn't even believe your own. So thank God I always had the best family and, the best coaches. And now in my adult life, the best wife. I mean, it's like the greatest blessing. It is the greatest blessing.
It really is.
Everything
It
else
truly is.
falls into place after that.
Yeah. Think about in the gym, how many more reps you do when there's accountability, when someone's there to push you. I know that when I go to the gym, I probably lift half the amount that I do when I'm there with a friend, because they push
Right.
me. They push me, and
Exactly.
I'm not going to give up. I got 3 more in me only because someone told me I do. So
Right.
you have
Yeah.
the wall, and then you break past the wall.
Yeah. Surround yourself with people that believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And also try to only watch positive things, listen to motivational things, listen to motivational music. I cannot tell you how much, like, growing up watching Rudy impacted my life, watching, Rocky, watching, movies of like transcendence, people overcoming. It's important to surround ourselves with like positive messaging and transcending and people overcoming. Otherwise, it's just, there's too much negativity out there that could just drown us and keep us like still and not moving forward.
Yeah.
And all living things must grow. We must always try to get better, win each day.
Yeah. Amen. There's a lot of negativity out there, and it's not hard to find. You don't even have to look for it. So if you surround yourself by positivity, positive messages, the negativity isn't actually going to help you at all. It's not. There's nothing productive about negative thoughts or negative messaging. So positivity, we know how we feel. Same thing early at the beginning of the conversation. How you feel when you go to bed at night, knowing you've accomplished something, that you've done well. You feel great, you sleep well, and you wake up the next morning ready to do even more than that. Negativity, well, you're under the covers, you lay in bed, you hit snooze a couple times, you're sluggish, you feel down, you're not even always sure why. Negativity is not productive. I like that. Surround yourself with positivity, positive messaging, positive inspiration, and outlook. So
Yeah. And I think one of the most important teachings in Judaism, the blueprint, is like, we have our godly soul and our non-godly soul. And the godly soul is like optimistic. Go get it. You got this. God believes in you. You got it. Win the day. You have an idea. Go for it. Confidence, kindness, sharing, giving. And then we have the negative side of our soul, which is jealousy, sluggishness, being cynical, stuff like that. And then, like, as you get older, you get to like process and like, where is this coming from? My decision-making process. Am I making this from the right side or not the right side? And once we learn how to identify that and make decisions from there, from our healthy part of our soul, it's just a much healthier way to live. And I think it also brings results too.
you also think about the people you like to hang out with. They're
Yeah,
not the ones that are negative. They're the people that are
exactly.
positive. The ones that make
Yeah.
you feel better after you've been with them. Those,
Yeah.
you don't have to sell it.
I love positive
Yeah.
coaches. It's not like a positive, good morning. How you doing, coach? What's up? Good to see you. We're going to win
Yeah.
today. Like, I always start, like, when I train and coach, we always start at 6 a.m. Sometimes the kids come in, they're half awake, and I'm already fired up because I get up at like 3:45. I've already studied, I already worked out. I get it. I'm fired up. You guys fired up? And I said, they look at me like I'm crazy, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to teach them it's a way of life, positivity.
Yeah. Do you bring that positive coaching and the positivity into your parenting life?
100%. Always. You got, just like we make decisions from our godly soul, we always have to talk to their kids, to their godly soul, not to their negative side. So instead of like reprimanding them, just say, a kid like you, that's as smart as you, as great as you, as kind as you, there's no point. There's no part of like you acting out the way you are. You're way too good for that. Your positivity talks to their positivity instead of putting them down. And the more good we feel about ourselves, the more likely we are to be better to the people around us. When you're sluggish, you start seeing the faults in other people, and then we take out our negativity on them. So it's important to take care of ourselves so that we could also talk to other people positively.
Yeah. In your current role, how are you drawing inspiration and leveraging the skills during your professional experience as an athlete, as a basketball player, into this business role?
Yeah, with Fabric, it's just been great because I wrote a post about this on LinkedIn last week with Saul, our boss. It's like, I can't write fancy proposals and beautiful emails and all that, but my dyslexia allows me to think of like creative brand partnership and who would fit and how to connect it to sports teams and what sport team and which program and which coach, and how can we use our technology to better brands, better the world, connect people. And that I get from my work ethic and dyslexia and relationship building and understanding what it means to be part of a team. So I love that Saul allows me to do all of that, even though like I can't write like nice Excels and things that most businesses really need. And,
Yeah.
it's just so great that he focuses, like we're just talking about, on my positive side instead of on my negative side. And I just feel
That's
so
good
honored.
leadership. That's
It's
good leadership.
great.
He's allowing you to do what you do very well, as opposed to saying, well, here's what your role is. The job description dictates that you do this regardless. Like, so if you can't hack the job, you're out. A
Yeah.
good leader figures out, where is this person, where are their strengths, where do they shine? Now I'm going to push more of that onto them so they can get more of that out to help us, to help them succeed. I like that. That's real positive leadership right there.
Yeah. He goes like this. This is the exact quote. Just get the job done. He's like, I don't care how you do it. Like, he just totally trusts me. He's like, you got your way of doing it. You go ahead and do it. And I love when he told me that.
That's awesome. You use the word creativity or creative when you described creativity in matching brand partnerships, because that's just how your brain is wired. I had a friend who said, I want an opportunity to be more creative. And I asked for his definition of creativity. And then I also asked somebody who's on the podcast next week what her definition of creativity is. And they're different. And that's so interesting. And this is a perfect example that you gave in how your creative mind allows you to succeed in business. It's that you're understanding how connecting two seemingly unrelated or different brands and how there's a symbiotic relationship that needs to be built. You see those things and you're putting those together. That is creativity. Beautiful. I can't wait to send this message to the people I've talked to about this topic.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the most important thing for me is that everyone should feel free to reach out to me. Like, you never lose out by helping people and being there for people. So it's just important. If anyone ever feels like I can help them or want to meet, whatever, I'm available. So thank you.
I appreciate that. Everybody will appreciate that. I always link the person's LinkedIn bio in the show notes. That'll be there. I'll also link everything else associated with you, what you're working on, what you have been working on. Obviously, the book is great. It's out there. It's a great resource. It's inspirational. The things that I'm taking away from this conversation, I could probably list about 10 or 15, but the things that stood out to me most was your ability to rise to the level of the expectations of your coach and your teammates through your work ethic, your regiment and time management, and just pushing yourself beyond the perceived limitations of an individual, pushing yourself to the next level, saying, I'm at this level right now, but I'm going to play at this level. I'm going to prepare myself today for tomorrow's level. That's the first thing. And the second thing, maybe more important than that, is your positive energy, your outlook on life, the positivity and the inspiration that you draw from the Jewish roots that you have, Torah, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, his right-hand man, like all these different sources that you leverage within your life as inspiration, as fundamental code that drive your inspiration in life, getting things done, being productive, and doing all that through a filter and a lens of positivity. I couldn't ask for a more important message to be stated here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for thinking of me, and blessings and success with all of your work.
Thank you, Tamir. Great to have you.
Thank you.
I want to thank Mark Morgan for recommending Tamir as today's guest, and to you, our listeners, for joining us on this episode. Remember, the skills you've gained can take you anywhere. Until next time, keep exploring those transferable skills.